Okay, let's unpack this.
And if ever there was a linguistic mess that needed unpacking, this is it. Today we are diving deep into what has to be the ultimate trap for anyone visiting the UK.
English place names?
English place names. They're not just tricky, they are aggressively unphonetic.
Absolutely. You see the spelling and
Yeah.
you mentally construct what seems like a logical four-syllable word based on every rule you've ever learned.
Right.
And then you hear a native speaker say it, and it sounds like this short, sharp grunt that shares maybe two letters with the written version. It's infuriating.
It is. It's that moment where all your confidence just collapses. But our listener here is brilliant because they realize that this chaos isn't actually random. The sources they provided go way beyond just listing confusing names. They actually outline the structural secrets, the underlying historical and linguistic rules that govern these insane pronunciations.
And that's the mission today. We are moving past just brute force memorization. We're going to engage with what one of the sources called the gatekeeper idea.
Exactly. That notion that if you can't pronounce the local place names correctly, it becomes an instant sort of low-level social signal.
Yeah, it's like a password.
It is. It confirms you are not from here. And it's just an unnecessary barrier. So our goal today is to completely dismantle that gate. We want to give you the insider's linguistic toolkit.
Right. So you can look at a monstrously complex place name, apply a simple rule, and get, what, 90% of the way there?
90% of the way there before you even have to ask for directions. Yeah.
And we've structured this a bit like a military campaign. We're taking a geographical tour first. We'll start in the south, where vowels just seem to vanish. Then we tackle the high-stakes chaos of London before heading up to the Midlands and the north, where things get, well, either wonderfully consistent or completely anarchic.
But the real payoff comes in our final section. After we've seen all the examples, we're going to distill the high-value strategic knowledge.
The shortcuts.
The shortcuts. Those key linguistic suffixes and consistent first syllables that, once you learn them, unlock thousands of names instantly. Think of the first three sections as, gathering evidence.
And the last section is where we codify the law.
Precisely.
Okay, let's start down south, where the history of English really starts to violently compress sounds for efficiency.
Southern England gives us our first and most dramatic lesson. And it's that English spelling in place names is often a historical document. The pronunciation, though, that's purely a reflection of local high-speed usage over centuries.
And the classic example of this clash is Gloucester. Gloucester. It looks formidable. It invites you to say Gloucester.
It does. It has 4 written vowel clusters. It's practically begging you to mispronounce it.
So what's the reality?
The reality is far more compact. The correct pronunciation is simply Gloucester.
Gloucester.
Gloucester. 2 syllables.
So what happened to all those other vowels? Where did they go?
They were ruthlessly eliminated through a process linguists call vowel reduction.
Vowel reduction. That sounds brutal.
It is. I mean, think about how we say the word N quickly in a sentence. We often just say N.
Right, rock and roll.
Exactly. When people say a place name hundreds of times a day for centuries, any unstressed vowel that isn't absolutely necessary just gets swallowed. In Gloucester, the stress falls heavily on that first glow syllable. Everything else is secondary, and it just leads to the collapse of "ew" and the compression of "cester" into "cester."
And what's particularly useful here is understanding the root. The sources tell us that the "o-cester" ending, which we see in so many English towns, comes from the Latin word castra.
Precisely. Castra. It means military camp or fortress. So when the Romans left, the Anglo-Saxons often kept the name, but they pronounced it through their own linguistic filter. Latin words are often long, full of distinct syllables, but English, especially for commonplace names, it just prefers efficiency. So castra becomes cester, which then gets compressed down to the sound store.
So that consistency, born of Latin roots and English efficiency, is our first major shortcut.
It's your first major shortcut.
Okay, let's test that theory right away with our next southern example, Bicester in Oxfordshire.
Another absolute spelling trap. B-I-C-E-S-T-E-R. Your brain immediately wants to pronounce that "ia" as a long vowel, maybe like Bicester.
And the correct pronunciation uses that short I sound, making it Bicester. Bicester.
And notice, it's that same compressed Ecester ending.
There it is again.
If you know the rule from Gloucester, you can immediately apply it to Bicester. The only trap here is that initial I, where we instinctively want to read it like bike or pie, but it's a short vowel, like in kiss.
The source material included a really interesting anecdote here and noted that even a lot of people in the UK mispronounced this until that massive designer outlet shopping center opened there.
Right, Leicester Village.
Yeah, and it pushed the name into constant national circulation through advertising.
That is a fascinating snapshot of language change in action. You know, massive commercial visibility can act like a language standardizer. Suddenly, Leicester wasn't just a local name, it was a brand.
And a brand needs consistent pronunciation.
Exactly. It's great evidence showing how modern pressures can stabilize ancient phonetic chaos.
Okay, moving right along. Let's tackle the most notorious multi-use vowel cluster in English. The dreaded off combination. We see it in Slough, just west of London.
Oh, this off combination. It's the bane of every English learner's existence. It has at least 9 different pronunciations. I mean, just think about how different off sounds through rough, bow, and cough.
It's utter madness. There's no logic.
None. So if we look at SLOUGH, we have no choice but to guess. And the most logical guess is often wrong.
So you might try sloof or slow?
You might, but the actual pronunciation for this town is slow.
Slough, so it rhymes with cow or now.
Precisely. And this is one of those cases where historical phonology is completely opaque. You have to know it. But to help it stick, you need a real-world anchor.
And the source provided a great one. The tale of the stolen iPhone. The host. Your phone was swiped, and you tracked it for a brief moment, and where did it surface?
In Slough.
In Slough. Never recovered, mind you.
Never recovered.
But that personal, slightly humorous connection, the location of the permanently lost iPhone, suddenly makes the pronunciation Slough unforgettable.
It does. It's the beauty of this kind of deep dive material, converting dry facts into sticky, memorable stories.
Our final Southern example is reading. R-E-A-D-I-N-G. Deceptively simple?
Deceptively simple, yeah, but frequently mispronounced. Visually, it strongly suggests the word for the color, red, plus the standard suffixing, leading many people to say redding.
But the critical distinction is that it's pronounced exactly like the verb reading, as in, I am reading a book. You have to keep that long E sound.
And this is interesting because, unlike Gloucester, reading resists that vowel reduction.
Why?
While historically the name derives from redda's people, or maybe a clearing in a forest, it's not a Latin military term being compressed, so the integrity of the name seems to have survived that efficiency drive, probably because of its different linguistic origins.
So, the lesson from the South is, look for those Latin roots for severe compression, but always check if the name happens to rhyme with a common English verb. I know the memory of you having an unfortunate encounter with a rogue tent jumper at the famous reading festival will, I guarantee, ensure you never say Reading again.
An expensive memory, but a perfect mnemonic device. And now we move from the relatively contained chaos of the South into the London labyrinth, where high-stakes visibility means every mispronunciation is magnified.
Right. What's fascinating here is that London names are constantly under pressure. They are heard by millions of people daily, on tube announcements, on tourism guides. This area perfectly demonstrates that conflict between old tradition and modern mass usage.
And no name illustrates this better than Marylebone. M-A-R-Y-L-E-B-O-N-E.
This one looks like it should be 3 easy words. Marylebone.
And that's what most people default to today. They say Marylebone, but this brings us right into the heart of the prescriptive versus descriptive linguistics debate. The sources confirm that the historically correct, the prescriptive pronunciation anchored to my own university experience in the area should be Marylebone. Marylebone.
Marylebone. Tell us why that historical pronunciation matters.
Because it tells a story. The name originated as St. Mary by the Bourne. Bourne means a stream or a river. So the original construction was 3 distinct elements. St. Mary's Church, located by the stream. The pronunciation Marylebone reflects this history, especially that bone part retaining its older Bourne sound.
But today, the vast majority of commuters, tourists, newcomers, they look at the spelling and read it phonetically as bone, like the thing in your body.
Exactly. So the wrong way Marylebone is now so overwhelmingly dominant that the historical Marylebone is, well, it's struggling to survive.
So this is descriptive linguistics winning over prescriptive rules.
It is the definition of it. If 99% of people, including transport officials, say it one way, does the historical correctness of the 1% even matter anymore? It raises a fundamental question for you, the listener. Is language defined by its history or by its current popular usage?
And in London, it sounds like popular usage usually wins.
High traffic means current popular usage almost always wins.
I think we'll stick with the common usage for directions, but it's vital to understand that historical anchor. Okay, let's move to another critical central London spot, a major tube interchange, Holborn.
Holborn. This is a classic case of the silent or reduced letter challenging the spelling. That L is a menace. If you try to pronounce the L distinctly, you get Holborn.
But the correct pronunciation?
Is Holborn. You often barely pronounce that middle L or it just becomes completely silent. It sounds closer to Holborn.
Why does the L vanish?
It's often elided when it sits between a vowel and another consonant. The speaker is just rushing through the transition. It's an efficiency move that smooths the sound flow, much like the compression we saw in the South.
Next up we have Southwark, a major borough south of the river.
Southwark. This one looks like two separate, distinct words just joined together. South and work.
And that's the trap. My initial mispronunciation, which the source confirms is a common error, was Southwark. I was stressing both parts equally.
And everyone does that at first. The linguistic truth is that the stress shifts entirely to the first syllable, and the W, it disappears, or it's swallowed into the R sound. So the correct pronunciation is Southwark.
Southwark.
It becomes a single fluid word. It's another example where this compound name, South plus work, meaning defensive work or fort, it just refuses to be pronounced as two separate parts in rapid speech.
It's forcing a linguistic fusion. Now let's talk football and phonetics. Tottenham, home of the famous Tottenham Hotspur.
Tottenham. This gives us a fantastic opportunity to discuss regional pronunciation markers, specifically the glottal stop.
Okay, for our listener, remind us quickly what a glottal stop is.
A glottal stop is when you completely stop the airflow using your vocal cords, usually replacing a teat sound in the middle or end of a word. Think about how someone with a heavy London accent might say bottle. It sounds more like bottle.
Right, that little vocal hitch.
That's the glottal stop. And technically, in certain regional accents, you might hear Tottenham with a glottal stop on that second T.
That makes the T almost invisible. It's just a cessation of sound.
Exactly. However, the most common nationally recognized pronunciation, the one you hear in stadiums and on news reports, is simply Tottenham. And even that is often reduced in rapid speech where the EN is swallowed, making it sound closer to Tottenham.
It's pure phonetic efficiency again. When football fans are chanting or speaking quickly, they don't have time for fussy articulation.
The speed of the fan chant overrides the formal dictionary entry and it creates Tottenham. And that's the enduring lesson of London. Practical application always beats historical purity.
Okay, we have two final compressed London names. Chiswick. Chiswick.
This one looks like it should follow the rules, but it adds a subtle twist. You might expect the ez sound of hiss. But the source points out that in the local pronunciation, the ez is often vocalized, which means it sounds closer to a ziz sound.
So not Chiswick, but Chiswick.
Yes, Chiswick. That subtlety is a hallmark of insider knowledge. And finally, Greenwich. Greenwich. Globally famous for the prime meridian.
Based on the spelling, you'd expect a hard chiz sound at the end, like in church or sandwich.
But the WICH ending is almost entirely swallowed and compressed into an idge sound. It is Greenwich.
That W often confuses people.
The W is often pronounced, but the itch is the killer part. The sound simplifies right down to itch. And the personal anchor from the source, the connection to your brother-in-law living there, just confirms that these high-profile London names are crucial to get right because you will hear them constantly.
So London taught us about silent letters, the glottal stop, and the destructive power of popular usage. Now we head into the Midlands and North to see if the chaos continues or if we find some unexpected pockets of order.
As we transition north, we maintain this theme of compression, but we start seeing consistent patterns emerge. And these are patterns that, when you apply them, make even the most visually overwhelming names manageable.
Let's begin with the famous culinary anchor. Worcester. Worcester. 7 letters of pure deception.
This is the flagship example of the reduction rule. It is only 2 syllables, Worcester.
Worcester. Let's break down that compression. The WR holds strong as the first syllable, wuss, and then the entire CESTER section is just brutally reduced.
It is the ultimate phonetic streamlining. The historical reason, once again, is that Latin castor root. The name has been in constant use since Roman times. Hundreds of generations saying Worcester every single day meant efficiency 1.
And the anchor detail is perfect. If you can pronounce the famous condiment correctly, Worcester sauce, you've cracked the city name.
You've got it. And following immediately is Leicester. Leicester. Visually, it's practically identical to Worcester in its structure.
Right.
And this is where English shows us a rare moment of mercy and structural consistency. The pronunciation of Leicester follows the exact same pattern.
So 2 syllables.
Leicester.
Leicester. The knowledge you gain from Worcester immediately transfers to Leicester. You don't need a separate rule.
That's the highest form of strategic learning.
It is. And the source reminds us that this consistency check extends even to high-traffic areas like Leicester Square in London, which gives the rule immediate, broad utility. If you know the sister rule, you've just cleared dozens of town names. Okay, now for the one that looks like a printer error. Loughborough. Loughborough. This word has 2 highly complex OUGH structures. It looks like 8 syllables of pure agony.
It is the textbook example of where English spelling seems designed to make you fail. But the result is, thankfully, contained. It reduces to just 2 syllables. Loughborough.
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 How do we get Loughborough from all of that?
We apply 2 sub-rules at the same time. First, the OUGH in the middle converts into the F sound, like in the word rough or enough. So that's the luff part.
Okay.
Second, the ending BORUGH adheres to the consistent borough rule, which always reduces to borough.
The source mentioned that while some locals might stretch it a bit, the consistent structure is dictated by that borough ending.
Absolutely. Sticking to Loughborough is the safest, most accurate bet. And the anchor detail here about the fantastic university known for sports. It helps establish the name's importance and ensures the pronunciation sticks.
Our last major Midland city is Derby, D-E-R-B-Y.
This name is subtly deceptive. In standard English, the ER combination is typically pronounced as a soft sound. If you try to say it like that, you get Derby.
The correct pronunciation.
It's Derby. It sounds closer to Derby. The ER takes on strong R sound, which is a common, though not universal, phonetic shift in regional English dialects when the sound is followed by a consonant.
That subtle difference is the mark of an insider. If you ask for directions to Derby, people might look at you funny, but Derby is correct.
Exactly. It shows that even small variations in vowel sounds can be critical.
Now we enter the true frontier. Northern challenges in places like Yorkshire and Cumbria. This is where standardized rules really start to break down.
This is where local tradition overrides everything else. Let's start with Barrow in Yorkshire. B-A-R-U-G-H.
This one is actually manageable.
Thankfully, yes, the pronunciation is simple. Barrow. The U-G just makes a long ooh sound.
But then we hit the pure linguistic anarchy of Keighley, also in Yorkshire. K-E-I-G-H-L-E-Y.
If you tried to sound that out phonetically, using any known English rule, you would fail. Miserably. The E-I-G-H combination alone is a nightmare.
How in the world does K-E-I-G-H-L-E-Y become the highly irregular pronunciation? Keighley. It sounds like Keithley.
That is the sound of Old Norse, Old English, and local dialect all mixing together over a millennium and leaving the written word far, far behind. The spelling is utterly unhelpful.
Wow.
Keighley is the perfect warning sign. If you see an overly complex name in the north containing that dreaded GH cluster, just assume the spelling is purely decorative and you have to check the local pronunciation.
It stands as a powerful demonstration that some names are simply linguistic fossils that you just have to memorize.
And finally, Sedberg, a Cumbrian town. S-E-D-B-E-R-G-H.
Another GH ending, but this one behaves differently again.
Here, the GH is actually quite simple. It's pronounced Sedberg. It retains the hard G sound and the RU sound, almost like Sedberg. The key is resisting the urge to make the GH silent or into an F sound, like you might in Slough or Loughborough.
The North is a land of extremes. Beautiful consistency in the Midlands, followed by total, unforgiving linguistic anarchy in Yorkshire. But now, we move to the antidote, the strategic shortcuts that will make all this confusion melt away. Here's where it gets really interesting. We've seen the evidence of compression and chaos. Now we distill the wisdom into 8 high-value rules, the suffixes and first syllables that, when you master them, allow you to decode thousands of names, transforming you from an outsider to an insider.
This section is the core of our deep dive. These rules exist because administrative suffixes, which denote things like town, camp, fortress, or river mouth, were used repeatedly across the country, and that forced a consistent phonetic pattern regardless of the individual spelling.
Let's start with Rule 1, the suffix borough. B-O-R-U-G-H.
The sound is consistently borough.
We've already seen this in action with Loughborough, which reduced that 8-letter monstrosity down to Loughborough. Understanding that the ep-borough suffix dictates the end sound, regardless of the confusing internal spelling, is the secret weapon here.
It is. Historically, a burh comes from the Old English word burg, or burh, meaning fortified place or town. It's a foundational element of English geography. And because it was used so frequently for high-traffic places, towns, and cities, it was subject to maximal compression.
And this rule applies to Peterborough, Edinburgh, Marlborough.
Hundreds more. If you see a borough, think borough.
Rule 2. A-B-bury, B-U-R-Y.
The sound is reliably bury.
Like in Bybury, B-I-B-U-R-Y, pronounced Bybury.
This is a delightful rule because the spelling is mostly honest, but the consistency is the real gift. Elbury also derives from that same Old English burh, often meaning a fortified settlement or manor house, similar to Ebborough. If you see Salisbury or Canterbury, you know that final sound is fixed. Salisbury, Canterbury.
Rule 3. Aborough, C-E-S-T-E-R, the champion of compression and our most powerful tool.
The sound is always Cester or Fuster. We cannot overstate the power of this rule.
It unlocks the entire Midlands and South. We saw it in Gloucester, Bicester, Worcester, and Leicester. If you see C-E-S-T-E-R at the end of a long name, you immediately reduce those letters to a single short sound.
Master. And this consistency is deeply historical. As we noted, it comes from the Latin castra. Because these were all Roman settlements, the phonetic reduction happened simultaneously across England centuries ago. If you encounter Cirencester or Towcester, you apply the Cirencester rule without hesitation. It's the most reliable phonetic indicator in English place names.
Rule 4. Combe, C-O-M-B-E.
The sound is reliably combe.
Example, Salcombe, a geographical feature. It's particularly common in the southwest of England. This is another one that is relatively honest phonetically, but knowing the rule just gives you confidence. You don't try to sound the E or make the O a long vowel. It's a simple short O sound. Rule 5. Ham, H-A-M.
The sound is generally ham.
As in Tottenham, T-O-T-T-E and H-A-M.
And this is where we refine the rule based on real-world usage. Ham historically means homestead or village. It's found in hundreds of names like Nottingham and Birmingham. In these cases, it is correctly pronounced ham, Nottingham.
Right.
But when it's linked to famous high-traffic entities like the Tottenham Football Club, we saw that massive usage pressure can reduce the final syllable entirely to num.
So if you say Tottenham using the rule, you are technically correct.
Yeah.
But if you're at the match, saying Tottenham means you speak like a local.
Exactly. It's a rare example where mass usage slightly undermines the rule, but understanding the rule gets you 99% there. It's a difference between linguistic correctness and social fluency.
Rule 6. The first syllable, on. Now, this isn't a suffix, but a consistent initial sound pattern that keeps travelers from making a critical first syllable mistake.
Right. If a place name begins with L-O-N or T-O-N, that initial sound is often pronounced as a short, sharp O sound, like on.
Examples being London and Tunbridge.
Yes, on, Don, and Tunbridge. This stops people from attempting long O sounds, like in tone or lone. This simple short vowel sound is highly consistent across many major towns, and it suggests a very ancient phonetic tradition for these frequently used words.
Rule 7. Shire, the flexible rule. S-H-I-R-E.
This is the amnesty rule. The pronunciation here is flexible, and both variations are accepted. You can choose between shire or shire.
So for Bedfordshire, you can say Bedfordshire or Bedfordshire.
And both are fine. This flexibility is crucial because it takes the pressure off. Often, people closer to London or those speaking receive pronunciation tend to use the shire sound, rhyming with fire. People in the regions themselves often prefer the shire sound, rhyming with fear.
So you can't get it wrong.
You can't get it wrong. Prioritize getting the first half of the county name right, and then choose whichever ending feels more comfortable. It's a great stress reliever. Not every rule is a gatekeeper.
Finally, Rule 8. Mouth. M-O-U-T-H.
The sound is consistently mouth.
Like in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
B-O-U-R-N-E-M-O-T-H, pronounced Bournemouth.
This is another name that sounds exactly like what it is. The mouth of a river, where the river Bourne meets the sea.
Right.
And like the Ebbsbury and Ecacombe rules, this one is straightforward. You'll see it in names like Portsmouth and Dartmouth. The consistency just confirms its reliability. If you see Ebmouth, you know the sound.
The sheer strategic power of these 8 rules covering Latin roots, Old English topography, and modern linguistic compression means that a map that once looked like impenetrable chaos now looks like a coded system just waiting to be unlocked.
It gives you immediate leverage over a huge segment of the English lexicon.
So what does this all mean? We started by acknowledging that English place names are, to quote the source, ridiculous, and often feel designed to trip you up, forcing you to reveal your status as an outsider.
But we've mapped the field and we've identified the rules of engagement. We learned that the South emphasizes brutal phonetic compression in silent letters, like in Gloucester and Holborn.
And we saw that London names are subject to the constant pressure of language evolution and social usage, like with the Marylebone debate.
And we identified those incredible, high-value, consistent patterns in the Midlands, Worcester, Leicester.
And the greatest takeaway is the strategy. By learning those 8 rules, those consistent suffixes and first syllables, you bypass the need to study every town individually. You can just look at the end of a name, apply the Cester or borough rule, and immediately know the intended sound.
Exactly. And many of these highly compressed pronunciations, they reflect centuries of linguistic use, prioritizing speed and ease of daily speech over consistent spelling. The names we struggle with today are, in essence, linguistic fossils. They show us how people spoke locally hundreds of years ago, preserving sounds like the reduction of castra that the standard written language has long since abandoned. It's not just a pronunciation lesson, it's a history lesson hidden in plain sight.
It certainly makes the challenge less frustrating and more like a satisfying historical puzzle.
It does, and now that you know the rules, here is the final provocative thought for you to explore on your own. If you look at a UK map and find the names Taunton, Colchester, and Barnstaple, can you use the rules we covered today, the Phaeton, the Facester, and the Fastaple, to accurately predict how those names might be compressed or pronounced? Go forth and test your new knowledge.